I see something strange in my mind's eye. The large wound on the assassin's chest. What kind of weapon could cause something like that, I wonder? Ah, well, maybe the guards will figure it out tomorrow. It's none of my business. Fuck Hazel. My eyelids struggle open.
But it's so early.
If it's about the investigation, just wake me up later. I don't care. They found Hazel. I don't care. She's just a bleeding corpse now. They completely dismembered her. Okay, wake me up about it in 2 more hours. Hi guys, I just want to take a second to thank all my patrons here who have donated to me. No matter how much they've donated to me, it really means a lot to me. And if you guys want, you can check out my Patreon and help support me continue to make yaoi videos. Thanks guys. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Chess of Blades. In the last episode, we met with Arden out here in the garden, and he engaged in a battle with our assailants. And now here we are, just watching the battle, and we're probably not going to do anything at all to help, since we're just a feeble maiden. But before it even comes close, Arden catches it with his own blade, shoving the assassin away.
When I threw you in the dungeons, you'll wish you'd never been born.
A voice that I can barely recognize comes from Arden's lips. His longsword suddenly cuts through the air and a flash of red stains my vision. A gasp of pain comes from the cloaked assassin, and he stumbles back, clutching his side.
Arden, don't!
Ignoring me, Arden brings his blade down in a huge swing. But the assassin lifts his own just in time to block it. I can see the figure's hand trembling as he fights, the pressure of Arden's longsword with his much thinner rapier. Is this a euphemism? Does Arden have a very thick cock? Well, I can't wait to find out. He stumbles back, and Arden rains down a succession of blows on him, which the man barely manages to parry in time. Soon their blades cross again, but this time the assassin can't pull away from Arden's sword. If this goes on any longer, he's going to... The frigid gleam stays on Arden's gaze as he forces the assassin down to the ground, the tip of his blade struggling towards the figure's throat. This is bad. Why won't he come to his senses? Who, Arden? What do I have to say?
Arden, you're not a murderer. That isn't the Arden who I...
What? No! Murder him, Arden! Do it for me! Arden, please! Hesitating, Arden glances over to me, a strained look on his face. His gaze is uncertain, almost lost. Suddenly, the assassin springs off the ground and starts dashing away. How can he even run with his side injured like that?
Don't let him get away!
I hurl my weight forward into a sprint, grabbing Arden's arm and pulling him with me. His ragged breath echoes in my ears as he runs beside me, still clutching his blade.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize now, idiot. We just need to catch him.
Arden's head lowers slightly, his lips curled in a grimace. Our footsteps crunch in the ground as we race after the figure, who darts into the hedge maze. Suddenly, he sharply rounds a corner, and we lose sight of him.
Shit! There aren't that many paths he can go down.
When we reach the same corner, the path splits in two in front of us.
I'll go left.
Sounding determined, Arden unhesitatingly disappears down the left path.
Just go into side without me then.
Grumbling, I run down the right path, weaving through the tight maze. I see splatters of blood on the ground beneath my feet. This must be the right way. Panting, I force myself to run faster, following the crimson trail. Finally, I emerge into a small clearing.
Ha! So you've surrendered, is that...
My victorious declaration trails off. Before me lies the cloaked assassin, but... There's a large pool of blood beneath him, and a thick, dark gash in his back.
What? How?
Stunned, I slowly approach his body. A hesitant prod of my boot doesn't elicit any movement. He He's definitely dead. Hurried footsteps suddenly rustle from behind me. Tensing, I sharply run towards them. I turn towards them, bracing myself. But it's Arden who rushes forward, his teeth gritted together.
Riv!
His eyes flick from my face over to the slumped figure. A look of horror quickly overcomes his features, and he takes a step back.
I found him like this, but there was no one else here.
Arden slowly approaches the assassin's body, kneeling down beside him. I unthinkingly hold my breath, praying a blade suddenly doesn't come swiping at Arden's heels. But instead, the corpse stays unmoving as Arden turns the figure onto his back.
He's been stabbed in the chest. The blade must have gone straight through him.
A morbid awe in his voice, Arden examines the wound on the assassin, his eyebrows knitted together.
Poor bastard. How did he get so caught off guard? I didn't even hear a scream.
Baffled, I crouch beside Arden. The strong stench of blood makes my stomach shift, but I force a sense of nausea back down.
I don't understand either. There was no one else out here.
Unless it was someone who knew him. Or who knew he would be in the garden.
Taking a sharp inhale, Arden reaches into the figure's hood to peel it back.
I don't recognize his face. Maybe some hired goon who got mixed up in all of this?
Maybe. But he fought like a professional. Not like your average hitman.
Arden sinks back onto his haunches, his eyes closing as he lets a slow sigh.
If I had just captured him then, it would have taken one kick to disable him.
I really butchered that line. He bitterly slides his blade back into his sheath at his side, then balls his fingers into fists. I can tell he feels responsible, and the look of guilt in his eyes tugs at me uncomfortably.
Now listen, Arden. It wasn't your fault. The heat of the battle gets into the best of us and all that. I'm sure it would have happened to me too, but I never got into fencing.
My fencing instructor always told me my arms were too thin and delicate to wield a blade properly.
Besides, if we'd captured him and he was still the target of whoever did this to him, wouldn't they stab us too?
I motion to the gaping wound in the assassin's chest, and Arden glances up to me in surprise. How can he go from looking like a madman to a lost puppy in a span of minutes is beyond me.
Riv, he tried to kill you twice. I couldn't just...
Shh. What's done is done. Let's drag his body out back and tell the guards. I'd head...
Oops. What was that? I definitely did not mean to do that. And head back inside before one of us gets gutted. I haul the corpse's left arm over my shoulder and motion for Arden to get his right. He reluctantly complies, and we carry the assassinated assassin slowly out of the hedge maze. There's an awkward silence as we pull the corpse back to the back of the castle, but I don't know if you can really make small talk while carrying a dead body. We leave the cloaked figure on the ground, and I find the nearest guard, and Arden explains what happened. The man's eyes resembled saucers as we go through the details. He quickly leaves us to gather some other guards and take care of the unsightly corpse. By the time we enter the main hall, I feel like I'm in a bit of a daze, and the memory of the fight seems distant enough to be a bizarre dream.
I'm sure they'll keep it hushed up. Last thing they want is for the guests to panic, you know?
Arden suddenly winces, his hand jerking up to his abdomen. His clothing is splattered with blood, but I figure it was the assassin's, not his.
Arden, are you hurt? I didn't see you flinch during the fight.
You're not supposed to show it, Riv. Besides, it's just a scratch.
But I don't even see it on your sprite, Arden. Are you sure you're hurt? I mean, I guess. Would it have killed them to just add a little blood splatter? Or a little bit of a cut? He takes his hand off his shirt, but I can see a long cut on his chest. He's probably in quite a bit of pain.
Why didn't you say something sooner, you damn fool? Come on.
Clicking my tongue angrily, I haul his arm around my shoulder and I pull him towards the stairs.
I didn't know you'd play my nurse, Riv.
Sounding a little woozy, but clearly happy, he snickers and leans his weight against me. I grumble under my breath and guide him up into the hallway, hoping he's not dripping any blood onto the nice carpet as we walk. Please don't drip any blood on there. I can't afford to refurnish the king's castle. That's what's most important in this situation. The carpet's red anyway. The first place I head for is my room, and after pulling Arden inside, I gently push him down onto the bed with a sigh.
Take your shirt off, but throw it on the floor, and don't bleed on my sheets.
Arden chuckles and complies while I search through the room's drawers for cloths and something to use for bandages. I grab the small basin of water that the servants must have refilled while I was out. I settle down on the edge of the bed and eye the nasty-looking cut on Arden's abdomen, drenching the cloth in water before starting to clean and bandage the wound.
Cold. But your hands are so warm.
Would you shut up? You can't be in that much pain if you're joking around.
Grabbing one of the rags, I rip it into strips and wind them around Arden's chest, applying pressure to the cut. Yeah, that doesn't look like a really shoddy job or anything. That's good enough, I'm sure. Bloody fool, getting himself hurt like this.
Hey, Riv.
Aww, look at his face. Look at his cute little face, guys. Oops. Look at him, he's beautiful. And some of you want me to go for Franz. What's wrong with all of you? He's so much cuter, come on. Such a beautiful man. Arden's voice sounds a little more solemn, and I glance up from my work to see him gazing at me from the pillows, his eyes heavily lidded.
I'll do better next time. Keeping you safe.
What do you mean, do better? You saved me from getting a knife in my skull. I think that's plenty.
He shakes his head, frowning, lips pressed together in an unsatisfied way.
It was too close. He wasn't skilled with throwing weapons. Otherwise,
As he trails off, I finish tying the makeshift bandages around his wound. Hopefully that'll hold for now. It wasn't too deep, thankfully.
Stop spouting nonsense. If it had been anyone else, I doubt they could have reacted as fast. Lucky me, I have a royal guardsman to keep me safe.
His hand drifts upward, palm brushing against my cheek. Aww. Look at them. So cute. I feel his fingers trembling ever so slightly. I lean slightly into his touch, closing my eyes for a moment.
You know, I never doubted your abilities, Arden. I suppose I just wasn't sure how much you wanted to help me. Liking someone isn't cause to risk your life for them, and, well, selfish as I am, I didn't think you really felt that strongly.
What? We didn't think that? Rivian didn't think that? Are we cater own heroes route again? Like, what's going on? What are you talking about? I had no idea. I had no idea you cared about me at all. Like, it was a complete mystery to me. You stupid bitch. The image of the inhuman passion in Arden's eyes reflects back in the back of my mind, and I tense a little.
We promised each other, didn't we? 4 years ago.
His soft voice comes as his thumb traces lightly, adorningly over my cheek.
Well, when you left without telling me, I thought that promise was null. And it hurt to try and keep believing in it.
His fingers curl softly against my skin, and I stay there for a moment longer, meeting his guilty, affectionate gaze. A part of me wants to reassure him, and a part of me wants to take advantage of this situation to finally be the top, like I couldn't be back 4 years ago, when we were together. At the moment, I'm hardly sure of anything myself. Finally, I slowly pull away and rise up from the bed, pulling the covers over Arden's lower half and stretching my arms. Aww.
You might as well rest here. I'll be over by the fire, going through this stupid book again.
Leave that lower half exposed, come on. I pick up the tome Linnaeus gave me from the foot of the bed, walking around to settle back into the chair I fell asleep in earlier. I can feel Arden's gaze following me, but eventually I hear him shift slightly and nestle into the bedsheets. He's probably having weird thoughts like, this pillow smells like Riv, or something equally repulsive. I sigh to myself and start flipping through the book's pages again, listening to the sound of Arden's rhythmic breathing. Eventually, I drop back off into a doze, curled up in the chair. As my consciousness drifts off, I see something strange in my mind's eye. The large wound on the assassin's chest. What kind of weapon could cause something like that, I wonder? Ah, well, maybe the guards will figure it out tomorrow. It's none of my business. Fuck Hazel. Until then, hopefully nothing else happens. Hopefully. Yeah, I don't know about any of that. Hands suddenly shake my shoulders. Yeah.
Riv, wake up.
My eyelids struggle open. My head tilts up and the first thing I see is Arden's face. Well, isn't that a good thing to wake up to in the morning?
Silas knocked on the door a moment ago, while you were still asleep. He said there was something we needed to come see.
But it's so early.
If it's about the investigation, just wake me up later. I don't care. They found Hazel. I don't care. She's just a bleeding corpse now. They completely dismembered her. Okay, wake me up about it in 2 more hours.
Riv, come on.
A pair of arms curl beneath my own and lifts me out of the chair. I stumble a bit, blinking, and glance out the window. The sun's already risen. It has to be past breakfast time.
Hurry! It's about Celeste.
What happened to bitch? I follow Arden to the door and out into the hallway, suddenly feeling completely awake. He jogs down the hall, heading in the direction of Linnaeus' room. Arden's silence makes me think it's something serious.
Hello? It's Arden and Rivian.
Arden knocks the door, calling out, and opens it a moment later.
Ah, come in.
The moment Linnaeus allows us to enter, I can sense something's wrong. There are several guards standing around the room and...
Celeste!
My eyes widen when I realize she's sitting on a chair surrounded by the guards, like a prisoner.
Rivian.
Her eyes abruptly widen when she sees me.
I assume you haven't heard? Miss Celeste was found this morning in her room, lying unconscious next to a bloody sword.
How could that have happened?
When the wound was compared to that on the body of last night's victim by her infirmary, they appeared to match perfectly.
Wow, Celeste, I guess you must have murdered that person outside and then just ran to your room, and then you must have been overcome with fatigue and you must have been so sleepy that you fell asleep right there and left the bloody sword right in your room. It makes perfect sense. Booker, boys. Case solved.
They said she must have killed him in a fit of rage for failing to assassinate his target, and fainted after fleeing the scene.
Are these people stupid? The hairs on the back of my neck stand on end, and as I run towards Celeste, who desperately shakes her head.
Her target? You were the one who ordered me killed?
How could you do that? I just thought we were starting to become friends.
It's not like that. You have to believe me. I don't know what happened. I was in my room when someone knocked on the door, and when I opened it, they hit me. I couldn't even see who it was.
It is true we found a bruise on her, but it is entirely possible it was something she incurred from struggling with the victim, and it failed to fully incapacitate her.
Linnaeus frowns, tapping his forearm with one finger.
While much of this may seem circumstantial, it is the only evidence we have. And His Majesty would be most concerned if we told him we failed to catch a murderer at his prestigious celebration.
Celeste squirms and growls in frustration, glowering intensely at Linnaeus. Well, if the king's gonna be angry, then let's just pin this all on Celeste then. Nothing else we can do. Small as she is, the guards around her still seem rather nervous. Yeesh.
I tell you, I didn't do it. You believe me, right, Rivian? There's no way I could kill anyone.
Yeah, sure, Celeste, sure. But put her in the deepest dungeon you can. Although her expression is fierce, I can sense an undercurrent of panic in her voice. I just can't tell if it's because she's being unjustly accused, or if she actually did it.
I know who's behind this all. Papa told me. It's those disciples.
You know about the cult?
She anxiously nods her head, her eyes narrowing.
They've been working against Papa's efforts for a long time. We're going to catch them here. I know it's them.
Linnaeus clears his throat, pushing up his glasses, shaking his head slightly.
It's true the cult is the prime suspect behind Hazel's kidnapping, but Varyson's would-be assassin is another matter. If his investigation into the girl's disappearance conflicted with your and your father's own efforts to catch the cult, it would prove troublesome.
Celeste.
Arden's fingers curl into fists at his sides, and I can see him searching Celeste for any signs of guilt. Unsure of what to think, I pause, studying the girl myself. Can I really let it end here? No. She could be lying, but if we don't help her, we may not find Hazel until it's too late. Whether Celeste is innocent or not, I won't rest until Hazel's found. Oh, who cares about the servant girl?
Celeste, if we did want to prove you innocent, where would we look to find evidence? Evidence that someone else wanted me dead, and wanted to keep the truth from getting out, even if it meant murdering their accomplice and framing you.
Celeste hesitates, chewing her lower lip, fidgeting in her seat.
All I know is that sword wasn't mine. It had to belong to someone allowed to carry weaponry, like guards or those staying outside the castle.
She's right. Even the nobility weren't allowed to bring weapons into the castle.
Arden chimes in to agree with Celeste, placing a hand protectively on the sword hanging from his own belt. Ah, I should probably keep quiet about the dagger that I've got hidden in my bags then. Oops. You fucking retard.
Then, Linnaeus, will you give us until the end of the day to search? If we can't find anything by then, I consent to her being taken away and indicted.
Consent to her? I guess I'm her legal guardian now. Like, what? What do you mean consent? When I turn to Linnaeus, the Inquisitor gives me a doubtful look, his elegant brow raising. However, I believe that he too suspects that someone else is behind this case.
Very well. She will be kept here until then. However, you are not allowed to discuss anything related to the murder outside of this room.
Understood. No point wasting time then. Let's go, Arden.
I motion for Arden to follow me and start heading towards the door.
Wait.
When I look back over my shoulder, I see Celeste watching me with concern in her eyes.
Rivian. Arden. Be careful. Whoever did this, I know they took Hazel too. And if you were one of their targets before, They're still coming for you.
Don't worry about him. No one will touch Rivian while I still live.
A surprisingly calm voice comes from my side, and I glance over to see Arden meeting Celeste's gaze coolly. In his eyes is a faint glimmer of the same look I saw that night. Purely frigid, single-minded intent.
Right.
Even Celeste seems taken aback, paling slightly, from being the subject of that gaze.
Yes, we'll be fine. We're grown men and all that. Come on already, Arden.
I grasp his hand and tug him out of the door, feeling everyone's stares as we hurry into the hall.
Don't say things like that when you're around other people. I don't think they understand you as well as I do.
What? But I was just saying the truth.
He was saying the truth. Rivian's just being crazy. Just like how he was back in the garden when he was like, "No, don't kill him! Don't kill him!" Like, come on, dude. The wide gaze that flicks over to me immediately softens in a look of confusion, and I sigh impatiently.
Never mind. We have to look for some kind of suspect. Someone who could carry around a blade.
Right. I know. The games are going on outside. I bet most people are gathered around there right now.
The games. After you.
All right, guys. Well, before we get to the games, I'm gonna end this episode here. I am afraid that my camera still looks a little bit weird with the way it's set up. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly better than it was in the Camp Buddy episode earlier today. That was really horrible. That was really dreadful. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.